Hey guys, Chris here, and I want to do a video today on addictions and talking about the true pleasures in life and how certain illusions are created, perhaps with the thing that we are addicted to or that we are doing more of. And it's not necessarily to say that you're highly addicted to something. It could be something you do once a week or every couple of weeks, but when you do it, you feel bad about yourself and you wish you never did it. And then there's all this sort of stuff going on. So I wanted to talk about that and talking about the true pleasures in life as well, because we think certain things that perhaps we're addicted to or things that we do, which maybe we know is not good for us. It can be like the highlight of our day. Maybe we're having a not so good day, but then you do this thing and you feel great. So what I sort of want from this video is to sort of have a bit of a reset and sort of to talk about how I've found doing that reset, cutting out certain things altogether. So the examples I'm going to give are emotionally eating sort of junk food. The other one is cutting out sugar. So I'll put those in two different categories. One is the sort of digital addiction, constantly checking your phone, and social media, and then caffeine as well. So, I mean, with all these things, it couldn't be highly addictive. So, I recommend keeping like an open mind while I'm talking about this. Read this through Alan Carr's books, and it talks a lot about the brainwashing, and it's not necessarily that you're doing it every day. Like you could maybe just be eating junk food once a week or twice a week, but it's if your brain is sort of has the illusion of this thing is giving me pleasure, and the pleasure isn't actually contained in that. It's more that it sort of hijacks and maybe takes the credit. So you could be out with your friends on a Saturday night and you're eating junk food together and you think the junk food is the thing that's giving you pleasure. Whereas it's not, it's more likely to be the people you're around. And it's more that we've been sort of tricked into believing that thing gives us pleasure. And yeah, things like even with caffeine as well. So that's not for everyone. I mean, for me, I drank coffee for many years and I was always fine, but I think over the last 2 or 3 years it's given me a lot of anxiety. I'll feel great when I drink it and I'm sat in a coffee shop and I'm drinking it, but when I then go home for the rest of the day or I'm trying to work, I'm just got anxiety, I'm stressed. I know that has done the thing, but yet you keep doing it because when you do it and when you're sat there and you're in the coffee shop and you're drinking it, you feel great. But that is sort of the thing that Alan Carr talks about in his books with addiction, is you think that thing is the source of your pleasure. And if you can get past that, if you can cut that thing out, and then maybe you reintroduce it every once in a while and it doesn't become a problem, then great. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to with this video. But what I realized particularly with things like junk food, and sometimes like I'd eat like a big bag of crisps or chocolate, like when I'm feeling low, I've had a stressful day at work, or something's not quite good in my life right now, I've had a difficult conversation, I will then go to that thing. And one thing that I learned is that we go to that because we want to feel great. But we only do that, maybe sometimes we do that in the low times, so if you're doing it in the low times, then maybe it's not a good source of pleasure. So in stripping back these things, and I've had like a habit, and I've cut these things out for a long time. I think cutting sugar out was something that I struggled with, but I've done to the best of my ability, because I think like I've had like bread and wraps and I think things like that. I then looked on the back and there's actually sugar in. So it's difficult to cut sugar out completely, but at least the emotional eating side and actually self-conscious of putting sugar, because there was an instance where I just had like one sweet, sugar sweet, and then it's like I then wanted more instantly. So it talks about this is how a trap of you just have something and you want more, but it's paying attention to how you feel after. So in cutting this stuff out, I actually felt a lot better in the long term. And yeah, there is in the mind, it's like I want that, but there's also the pleasure of cutting back on that and not having that. And what I'm starting to find now is you get more to this like enlightened state of feeling good all the time. And as an example, I think when I finished, I was at work the other week and I just didn't have a good day at all, and I just remember coming home And I didn't go to, watching YouTube or, eating sweets or whatever I would do in sort of those low moments. I would just then stay with it. And then it passes. And you think as well, one of the illusions as well, what I learned from in some of these books from Alan Carr, is that you think you would deal with stress better, you know, but it actually makes it worse. Like maybe you're feeling really stressed and then you go to this thing that makes you feel good. That's only because you're addicted to the thing that you think is a source of pleasure. But then eventually you feel worse, then the next day, maybe you go and you drink, and then the next day you're hungover, and then you feel, you're really tired for the whole day. So again, you're making it worse. So the best thing is probably to do is just to stay with that uncomfortable feeling, and then it will pass, and you'll deal with it better. You'll deal with stress better. I think it's not a case of perhaps you're not taking full responsibility for yourself when you you run from that thing. Pornography was one as well, where it's just that illusion of in the moment maybe it feels great, but then there's so many more negative effects. Maybe it decreases your drive, your passion for life. You feel really lazy, you feel really tired, and there is that moment of it feels good when you're doing it, but then there's so many other knock-on effects, and then it can be best, that's why it's cutting it out. And there was a good graph that I seen where it's saying like, if you imagine, you're already below the threshold of happiness, and then you're getting peaks and troughs, but you're even below your base level when you're addicted to something. So even that's why sometimes you keep doing it and you can never fully get back to that level of satisfaction, whereas if you were doing nothing. So addictions are traps. So that's something that I wanted to put there. But in learning the sort of the true passions in life and things you're passionate about, I'm starting to love exercise, being with friends, maybe listening to music, going to events in person, dancing, ecstatic dance, things like this. But when you go to events that I found that I've been going to, like in person, or I'm around people, or like when I did this trip away in Serbia not too long ago, you just enjoy every moment. And when I was around people every day for like 6 days, great people, I didn't have a need to sort of go on YouTube or check my phone all the time, or eat junk food, because I was just sort of enjoying the moment. And I think that is what it's about. And I sort of see, not this to say that there is someone out there, or just to keep going on, there's darker forces that are trying to take us away from our true self, or there's certain people in the world who, I'm kind of breaking out of that sort of mindset now, because it keeps you as a victim. It is just the way it is, and that's the way the world functions, that we are drawn to these sort of things because we have a tendency to not feel good about ourselves, to do stuff that feels bad. And we've been conditioned that way, right? We've been conditioned to say, oh, it's a treat to go. I mean, the recent book I read was on computer games. So it was on digital, but the main thing was on digital, online gaming. And I think 1 in 5 men now who are like early 20s maybe leave the university and they don't look for a job, and they just do games full time, because in a game it has that sense of achievement and making decisions and all this sort of stuff. But it's not the real world. And this sort of thing with the metaverse now, Mark Zuckerberg's doing, it's not it's just it's complete disconnection from reality, and it will never give you that same level of satisfaction. So that is the same with all of these sort of things that we're addicted to. You take one thing and straight away you want more of it, and you want more, and you're never satisfied till you just keep getting it, and then that gradually makes you feel worse and worse. So it's one of them. It's a lifelong, and I think it's good to then break out. But then when you start walking around London and you just see people, reading the newspaper on the tube, reading the newspaper on their phone, eating a big bag of crisps, looking down, completely disconnected, smoking, you drinking a can of beer on the street, whatever it is, you realize, oh my God, this is crazy. But then you see some people who are just with their eyes wide open, looking around, happy to just sort of, being walking around, right, doing that one thing, that the sun's out and all this other stuff. you then start to, yeah, appreciate the true great joys of living. So I encourage, yeah, just for you guys to cut back on some of this stuff. Look at it as a challenge, you know. And I use this method of habit stacking. So it's like, as I cut out the junk food or the caffeine, I then started saying, oh, I'm gonna, you know, check my phone less and do all this other stuff. So I found it quite interesting. So I recommend giving it a go. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I would just be aware of those feelings. I'd read those books, if you get a chance. They're really good. So it's Alan Carr's. There's one on emotional eating. There's one on good sugar, bad sugar, and there's one on digital detox, digital screens. And there's one on caffeine as well, which is good. So yeah, check them out, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.